All right, perfect. Welcome you guys to our Body Electric Weekly webinar. We are halfway through January already for 2019. I can't believe it just seems like time flies. I know that we came off of a pretty great webinar last week where we touched base on our vision for the year for our team. So if that's something that you didn't catch live or you haven't yet watched the recording, I would love for you to prioritize that and make that part of your plan in the coming week or so. There's lots of valuable information there. There's been a couple recent live streams in the team page where we've talked about the virtual gym, sort of our forecast and vision for that, and just lots of new and exciting things happening. We have our first live accountability workout happening this Saturday morning in the virtual gym, which I'm excited about. So as with everything, just a quick note, as with anything we do for the first time, it's going to take a little bit of trial and error and a little bit of showing up in order to create the momentum. So I have no doubt that the majority of people on the accountability workout this weekend will be coaches, and that's okay because we show up first, right? And as we continue to do it, we will start to get challengers from the virtual gym showing up as well. So it's just like if you were teaching a live fitness class. You show up the first time, you might have 2 people, and as you continue to show up, more and more people come. So really just thanking you for your patience with it and knowing that everybody kind of sees through with the vision. What I'm planning to do is put together a sort of calendar, I guess, like a workout calendar, which will include the accountability workout time slots and the live workouts that one of us leads. As soon as I have that done, I will post it in the actual virtual gym. Of course, I'll share it with people who are volunteering to help. But if you have a set time, like if you're somebody who works out every day at the same time, if you're pretty consistent, at least, Monday through Friday or whatever, please send me a PM or let me know what time that is for you. And I can plug you into the accountability calendar. So the idea really would be that you would send out a Zoom link. If you work out Tuesdays at 2 p.m., once a week, we're asking anybody willing to just host, basically just do your workout live on Zoom, and anybody else who's working out at that time can hop on for accountability purposes. So kind of like the same concept as a hustle hour or a power hour. I think this will be really cool. So, but again, we have to kind of put the feelers out there. We have to show up before we expect others to show up. So patience with it is important. So everything else is in the weekly announcements. So I'm going to go ahead and share my screen. I wanted to talk to you guys tonight specifically about creating a personal growth plan. And, it's funny because after the vision webinar and after having some one-on-one mentoring calls with you guys here in the last month or two, this has been a common topic. This has been something that many of you have reached out about. You've said, hey, I do personal development, right? Like I do it. I listen to podcasts or I read books on occasion, or I occasionally pop into the team mastermind. But as far as having a personal growth plan, I'm not really sure how to go about establishing that. So I figured there's really no better time to tackle this topic than the beginning of the year, because you guys are probably pretty fresh with your personal vision, what you're shooting for as far as your business and your life for this year. You might have even created a vision board by now, or you're feeling it, like you're in the groove with really dedicating yourself this year. So I wanted to make sure that we talk about this first. To me, this is the most important thing, right? Like there will be thousands of other coaches that would tell you that the most important vital behavior is inviting. And I agree that inviting is extremely important. But I actually think that who you are as a person matters more than the invitation. And so if you can really just put together a personal growth plan for yourself and commit to it, and then share that journey as often as you're sharing your fitness journey or your nutrition journey. The phrase I like to use is, we are always telling people to be proof the products work. Well, it's just as important to be proof that personal development works. Because if we can prove to the people who follow us that we are committed to becoming a better person in multiple areas of our life, and if we show them, like I've had so many people reach out to me through the years, they've seen me grow so much as a person, regardless of how my team has grown or how my business has grown. They've seen just me evolve. And when people see you evolve, it's inspiring to them, right? It's something that they want to be part of or that they want to hear more about. So having a personal growth plan is the most important thing. And if you're a brand new coach, I want you to know that, I'll tell you a little bit here in a minute about my personal story with this, but for me, even just committing to some form of personal development in the beginning might just be where you start, right? Like it might be really hard to create a personal growth plan if you've never done personal development before. So for me, it was the very first thing I ever did was read the book called The Slight Edge. And it was I think I owned it for like 6-8 months before I even read it. And after that, it got my wheels spinning. It created certain levels of awareness in me and helped propel me to the next thing, to the next book, until somebody told me about it, the next podcast. And I started to crave this awareness that I was starting to have. And that awareness brought about sort of a path for me to follow, right? So if you're brand new to it and you've never done personal development, start with just a book, right? If you're a new coach, my top recommendations for you are The Slight Edge by Jeff Olson. Definitely the book that got me started. There's The Compound Effect by Darren Hardy. And then there's The Magic of Thinking Big by David Schwartz. All three of those books should be in your arsenal, whether you're new or veteran. They're great books, but they can be a great starting point for your personal growth. Okay. So we cannot become what we need by remaining who we are. I looked and looked and looked today for a quote by John Maxwell. I couldn't find the exact language, but I know Amy Snow talks about it often. Basically that aging isn't optional. We're all going to get older, but whether or not we get better is up to us, right? And I don't know his exact language, but it's something like that. And so I thought it would be perfect if we just kick this thing off with a John Maxwell video. So don't mind my shopping carts, but we're going to watch the
pick it up
John
and it helps you
Maxwell.
to learn and grow.
Can you guys hear this?
A life-changing experience for me back in 1973 as I'm sitting down with a guy named Kurt, and we're at the Holiday Inn in Lancaster.
Okay, Laura's telling me no. Can you hear it? Jackie, can you hear it? Yeah? Oh, okay, it's on delay. I think it's on a little bit of a delay. I'm going to play it. It's only 3 minutes long. We're going to hope it works. If it doesn't, send me a chat.
Pick it up and it helps you to learn and grow. A life-changing experience for me back in 1973 as I'm sitting down with a guy named Kurt, and we're at the Holiday Inn in Lancaster, Ohio, and he asked me, he said, John, what's your plan for growth? I'm just a kid. I'm just in my 20s. I don't even know I'm supposed to have a plan for growth. I'm embarrassed because I don't have a plan for growth. And so I decided to fake it. So I told him how hard I worked. I went through this whole schedule, and I was like a plane circling the field, trying to come in for a landing. I went around and around and around. Finally, I ran out of gas and shut up and landed that sucker. As soon as I quit, he looked at me, smiled. He said, you don't have a plan, do you? No. Then he said words that changed my life. He said, John, growth is not an automatic process. If you're going to grow, you're going to have to do so intentionally. That afternoon, I went back down to my house and I sat down with my wife, Margaret, and I said, I don't know what a growth plan looks like, but I heard a guy tell me today I needed to have one. I'm going to figure it out. And I took that whole year to figure out how to do a growth plan. And I'm here to tell you, it changed my life. It was in the early 70s. For 30 plus years, I have been on a personal growth plan every year. The speed of the leader determines the speed of the pack. And the only way that you and I will ever continue to be in front is to continue to learn, to continue to grow, and make a commitment to it. And highly successful people, they continually have a thirst for knowledge. They continually ask questions. Now, maybe the most important thing that I'm going to share with you in my time allotted today is what I'm going to share with you now. Because I truly do believe this. I don't think success is a mystery. I think success is very tangible and achievable by every one of you in this room. It's going to start with this statement. Are you ready? The secret of your success is determined by your daily agenda. The secret of my success is determined by what I do today. I believe that so much that a few years ago I wrote a book called Today Matters. And basically in that book, I talk about the fact that we over-exaggerate yesterday, we overestimate tomorrow, and we underestimate today. If I could go home with you, and I could spend one day with you, and tomorrow night at 6:30 we went to a restaurant and we sat across from each other, and you looked at me and said, John, you said the secret of my success is determined by my daily agenda. You've been with me for a day. What's my potential for success? You do know with about 85% accuracy. You do know this, I hope. I could look right across the table and I could tell you what your potential
is. Yeah. Okay. So I love that story. And actually he spoke at Team Beachbody Summit a few years ago in Las Vegas. And he shared that same story. I've heard it a million times, where he had somebody ask him for the first time what his personal growth plan was. And like you just heard, he'd never had one before. And my personal story with this is very similar. I was in corporate America. I had worked in my corporate job for, I think, around 5 years at the time. It was everything that I thought I wanted, right? Like I wanted to work my way up in the corner office with a view. I wanted to be an editor at the publishing company that I was working for. And I kept finding myself each year or every 6 months going in for that annual assessment or 6-month review and asking my boss for professional development, like asking to attend seminars, whether it was in my skill set or whether it was in leadership and management. Like I just craved wanting to be better. But I honestly, like as ridiculous as this sounds, I honestly had no idea that these were things that were in my control. Like I literally thought that it was up to my boss to say, hey, here's this great workshop or here's this great conference for you to go to. We're going to pay your way to go, or we're going to give you a day off to attend it. And I just, every 6 months, I just kept asking. I kept being told no, right? Like, no, that's not something we do. It's, it's not in the budget, blah, blah, blah. And when Beachbody was introduced to me, maybe a year into being a coach, we had a local event here in Indy where Chalene Johnson actually came to a local golf club and put on an event. And I remember it was like $30 to attend. And I told Chris, I'm like, I'm going to this event. Chalene Johnson, she created Turbo Fire. At that time, Chalene had no business credentials really. She was just the creator of Turbo, right? Like this was before she went on to become a podcaster and an author and all that. And that particular evening that I attended that event, everything changed for me. She really just sort of turned the light switch on for me to realize that this wasn't up to my employer. Like this was up to me. If I wanted to become better in all the different areas of my life, including my work, it was on me. I could go to a bookstore and go into that like self-help section that I had so desperately avoided before that, right? So that was my introduction to it. And from there, I decided, okay, I'm going to actually read The Slight Edge. It was a book that my upline had given me that had just literally sat in the dust in my office. And I picked it up, and we were actually going on a trip to Florida with my parents. And I took it with me on the plane thinking, oh, I'll read this on the beach. I'll have this for the few days we're in Florida. And I ended up reading it on the flight on the way there. I was so engrossed in that book. I was so hooked into it that I got it read in like 2 hours. And that was definitely the beginning for me of this awareness of my strengths and weaknesses, awareness of where I could be better, awareness of potential that I didn't know existed, right? And that led to just sort of this addiction to uncovering more about myself and about other people, learning personality types, right? I just dove straight in. And that over time has propelled into this crazy personal development story that I have, right? Like it started with that. It resulted in me becoming I call myself like a serial podcaster, listening to podcasts 24/7, expanding my skill set development, expanding my leadership abilities, and all of those like hours and hours. I told Chris, I wish that there's one regret I have, and that is that I didn't start writing down every book and podcast I ever listened to, because I would love to go back and see how many hours I have dedicated to just personal development. Because I can tell you with 100% assurity that my success in this business has happened for no other reason than my story with personal development, right? Like, had I not been willing to invest in myself, nothing else would have happened. So fast forward to like 2014 or whatever it was, when I decided to take it to the next level and hire a life coach, which was Amy Snow. And then she obviously started working with our team. I wanted personal growth to be an integral, central part of our team, because it had been such an integral piece for me. So that is my personal story with personal development. That's why I'm so passionate about it. I know a lot of you guys already knew that, but for any new coaches tuning in, I wanted to share that. And that's why we're talking about it tonight, because I think it's that important. So to me, when I was thinking today, like, how do I help you guys create a personal growth plan? I want to keep this as simple as I can, because it's really not something that needs to be like overthought. Personal growth, to me, we can look at it from the perspective of a Beachbody coach and say that it's twofold, right? Like, you can focus on personal growth in your life, in your relationships, like, every aspect of your life outside of business. And then there's the business focus as well. The cool thing is that the two intertwine, right? A lot of you guys are working full time. You have colleagues that you work with, or you have managers that you work with, or people who work for you, or maybe you're a parent, right? And you have kids that basically, I won't say work for you, but you know what I mean, like that you're in charge of, that you're managing on the day-to-day. So lots of different areas: leadership, time management, confidence, like so many different aspects of just personal growth apply to both business and life, which is why it's so cool. But in my opinion, at least in my experience, we need to have really a personal development plan and a skill set development plan. And this is one thing that I've seen some coaches sort of not grasp. I see too many coaches oftentimes diving into the yay rah personal development, like things that really fire them up. I love Girl Wash Your Face. It's probably one of my favorite personal development books, and I'm a huge fan of Rachel Hollis. But in my opinion, it's sort of a yay rah book. And it's a great book to go back to when you're having a rough day, when you need that motivation. But as far as like building on it, right? Like building on it and learning more about how to be a better leader to your team, and or understanding social media better, right? Those skill set pieces and taking your leadership up to the next level, you need more than just Girl Wash Your Face. And so what I have found is I find too often coaches get sort of sucked into the vacuum of reading the things that they like to read, and not necessarily pushing themselves out of their comfort zone and reading the things that they need to read. Okay. And that goes for both personal development and skill set development. Does everybody understand what I mean by the two? Like skill set development being, learning more about Instagram, or how to set up my blog, or whatever the case is. Okay. So really we need to be bettering ourselves, our relationships, and our business. So all three of those pieces are equally as important. So the way I broke it down into a series of like 5 steps or 5 questions that you can kind of walk through tonight, even on the call. So first things first, Chalene Johnson says this: relationships are everything. Like when it comes to our life, if we don't have our relationships, we don't have anything. Same thing goes for your health, right? So if you've got people that you love and a body that's functioning well, you have everything, right? You have your health and you have your relationships. So the first question I want you to ask, if you're looking to create a personal growth plan for this year, is really just start off by saying, okay, what are the 3 relationships that I either would like to or need to improve this year? Is it your spouse? Is it your, a particular kid, or all of your kids? Is it your mom? Is it your best friend from college? Like who are the relationships, the top 3 that you would like to put focus into this year? Because I can tell you that for the first probably 5 years of my business, I was, like I told you, addicted to personal development, but I was addicted to the business side of the personal development, uncovering my strengths as a leader, uncovering my strengths as a communicator, learning social media. Everything was business, business, business. And it wasn't until probably the last 2 or 3 years that I really started to dedicate like a day of my week, or whatever the case is, to really listening about how to make my marriage better, right? Like how to be a better parent. Those things matter, and they should be part of your personal growth plan. So question number 1, take a minute to write down the top 3 relationships you'd like to improve this year. And I want you to not just write down their name or who it is, but also how specifically you would like that relationship to improve. So in what way would you like each of those 3 relationships to improve this year? Okay, perfect. And you can always, if you don't have enough time, you can always come back to it later. So the second question then is, when it comes to your business, in what areas are you falling short? Now, I realize that as a new coach, you might not be able to answer this. If you're like brand new to the business, I can give you a different question to answer. But for those of you guys who've been doing this for a year or more, what do you feel like could have gone better in 2018? Could you have been more consistent? Could you have put more, commitment and execution in your sales and marketing, right? Were you struggling to hit Success Club? Or were you rocking Success Club, but now it's really coming down to building a team and leading your team well? So the way I see it really when I was writing this down today was, these are the 4 primary components of a successful business: consistency, sales and marketing, building a team, and then leading a team. Okay, so if you're a brand new coach and you can't really reflect because you've not been a coach for longer than a month or 2 or whatever, my question for you is, of these 4 things, what do you need to work at first, right? So my tip for you would be, consistency and sales and marketing are going to be your area of focus right now. How can you be consistent in sharing your journey, sharing your story, consistent in inviting people, right? How can you make Success Club non-negotiable for you? How can you hit 3 Lives Club each month? Starting with those types of goals will lead you to building a team and executing these 4 areas more fully. So that is question number 2. So we know so far what relationships we want to improve this year and how specifically. And we also probably know our primary focus or 2 when it comes to improving our business. So step 3 is then to research those areas. Okay. So if you put down, that you're really struggling with let's say Instagram from a skill set development side, maybe that's something that you really feel like you need to learn more about, right? Like you're doing well with it. You've got conversations that are happening there, but maybe things aren't executing fully. Maybe it's something maybe doing some research on Instagram online courses would be a good option for you, right? Like if you are struggling in the leadership category, if you feel like, okay, I hit Success Club consistently, but now I'm really needing to build a team. I'm really needing to put some time and effort into recruiting new coaches or helping the team that I have and leading the team that I have. There are things that come to my mind, right? There's EntreLeadership 1-day workshops that you can invest in. There are, Eric Worre has seminars that you can invest in. So doing some research on those areas that you have specifically written down. I think it's Rachel Hollis that talks about how she and Dave went to like a Tony Robbins event together that helped improve their marriage. So if your marriage was one of your top relationships, right, you could have something, you could research something that you and your spouse could do together to help you guys grow. So what I'm saying is there are lots of different options as far as specifics of what to do when it comes to enhancing those particular areas. So now that you know what those areas are, you can do the research to find out the types of things that you could really go all in on. Of course, there are books, there are podcasts. Those tend to be like the lesser cost items when it comes to investing in yourself, which we're going to talk about in a minute. There are workshops. Like I never knew that EntreLeadership had like a virtual ticket option for their event. And for my birthday, like my husband knows me so well, that's what he got me for my birthday was the virtual ticket to the EntreLeadership workshop event, which was pretty cool. So I wouldn't have known that because I don't do a lot of research. But had I done the research, like I do in other areas, I would have known that. So workshops, live seminars, online courses, right? I've invested in things before like Marketing Impact Academy with Chalene Johnson. The live events that are associated with those online courses tend to be really rock solid as well. Hiring a life coach, right? Doesn't have to be Amy. I think Amy's fantastic, but there are other life coaches out there too. So hiring somebody that can help facilitate your personal growth. And then of course, mastermind groups. So that's an option that we offer as a team quarterly is to hop into a team mastermind group that's usually focused on a particular book or topic. So those are just the different types of things that you could be looking into when you're doing your research. And then let me go back. whatever you decide to invest in, whatever things fit your personal growth plan the best, those get plugged into your agenda, right? Those get plugged into your day-to-day. I remember when I purchased my ticket to Marketing Impact Academy, it was a hefty price tag. This was probably, I think it was 2 years ago, 3 years ago. And it was, I don't know, like more money than I had ever spent on anything personal growth related. And it scared me a little bit, but at the same time, I was putting skin in the game. You know what I mean? Like I was investing in something to help me grow. And so I had to take it seriously. So the very first thing that I did was I plugged into my daily planner, an hour, sometimes 2 hours, sometimes only 30 minutes. I plugged it in every day, what I was going to do on a daily basis to keep up with that online course. Just like you would if you're taking your personal training, course, for those of you who've done that, or you're trying to get your nutrition license, whatever it is. Some of you guys have dealt with that, the online course thing before. Scheduling it into your planner, right, is the key. Just like John Maxwell said, whatever is part of your daily agenda is going to determine your success. So this is a huge one too. And this is one that you can ask Amy, really stalled on for a really long time. So, and it has to do with finding a mentor. And so it could be that, your upline coach is your mentor when it comes to the business, or it could not be. Maybe you don't jive with your upline. Like maybe you need to find a different mentor in the business, right? Like I would say that I have a couple different people in this business that I would consider a mentor within Beachbody, but it wasn't until about this time last year that I was sitting in one of my sessions with Amy Snow, my life coach, and she said, hey, have you ever thought about getting a mentor outside of the business? Like somebody who is business successful outside of network marketing, who could really take a look at your life and feed into you. Like, is there somebody you look to that has a great marriage and a great family and, they're successful in their business, but they have nothing to do with Beachbody? She's like, go with them, right? Like ask them to be your mentor. And it scared me to death. And I literally stalled on it for months until I finally said, you know what? I do think this is what I'm missing. I do think I need a mentor that can really speak into my life and it specifically ask them to be that for me. And so I did it. And I talk to this guy about every 3 to 4 weeks. We text a little bit more often than that. But it's been really awesome to have somebody who's completely removed from what I do. He doesn't understand at all. He seriously does not understand. And sometimes it's frustrating. He doesn't understand what I do. But at the same time, it's sort of freeing too, because he can really take an outside perspective and help me see things from a different angle. So finding a mentor in the business and also finding a mentor outside of the business would be my recommendation for you for step 5. It helps with that accountability piece to your personal growth plan. So I saw this today and I loved it because honestly, when Natalie and I were planning some content today to share with the team, Chris came in the door from school and this ended up being exactly what we talked about. And that is that your income seldom exceeds your personal development. So how much you're willing to invest in yourself will typically come back tenfold, at least in my experience, right? So this is something that we were just talking about tonight that, Chris was saying that one thing that I have never shied away from since starting as a coach was investing in myself, right? When it came to going to the event, paying for Summit, being in the room for Summit, going to the local Super Saturday events, buying the book that's going to help me grow, right? Paying for the Audible membership, investing in Marketing Impact Academy, all the different things that I've done over the course of the 8 or 9 years that I've done it, has really helped set me up for success. And so if you're looking to make this business a business, I hope you're also looking to invest in yourself, because the truth is a lot of times, we see coaches come into the business and a year or 2 years in, they're like, I'm not earning a full-time income, so I don't really know if this is for me, right? When the truth is that we spend 4 years or more in undergrad to learn what we're going to learn for our corporate job. And then we get into our corporate job and we work at the entry level position for multiple years. And so by the time we start earning the income that we really feel we deserve, we're several years in, right? So the way this business works, and I love the way Josh Coates talked about it this weekend. He said, and I laughed out loud because there was this guy that was a member of my gym, and he was an older gentleman, probably close to 60. And he was like one of my favorite clients. He owned a car dealership, and his wife was one of the most successful network marketers in a different network marketing company, like not health and fitness related. And she was like the Christine Dwyer of her network marketing. And he said to me over and over and over again, which is essentially a different way of saying what Josh Coates said this weekend. Josh Coates said, the unfortunate thing is that people come into this business and they only come into the business having invested $160. And so the bad news about that is $160 really could be like a pair of Lululemon pants, right? Like, whereas if I wanted to open a Chick-fil-A chain, it's going to be thousands and thousands and thousands of dollars. So there's not as much skin in the game in network marketing, right? And the way that my client at the gym used to say it is, well, there's good news and bad news to network marketing. And he goes, and it's the same thing. Anybody can do it, right? Meaning anybody can pay the fee. Anybody can buy the challenge pack to get in as a coach to be a network marketer. And so what's going to set you above the rest, what's going to help you succeed is just investing in yourself, right? Like having this personal growth plan and kind of setting the bar high. So the one thing that Chris was saying that I didn't finish the statement earlier, but the one thing that we were talking about today was, I said, what I'd like for you to help me create is some sort of because numbers is not my thing, but I'd love for him to help me create like an Excel file or something that helps our coaches understand how to take the money that they're earning and reinvest a certain percentage of it into themselves. And I said, if I could show them that, if I could teach them, X percent gets reinvested back into yourself, whether it's through team masterminds, books, online courses, any of this stuff that we've talked about. I said, that could be the difference maker for so many. Because what I find is we churn and churn and churn and churn and burn, trying to sell challenge packs, trying to make income. And then that income goes directly into like paying for our own costs on supplements, paying for our kids' soccer shoes that they need for soccer, which is awesome. But I feel like a lot of coaches sort of don't budget for reinvesting in themselves. And I will say I had 2 awesome conversations with a couple of you in the last few weeks. And almost I don't cry ever. And I almost came to tears both times because it made me really feel like this whole personal growth initiative that I feel like I've taken on for our team in the last few years, it made me feel like it was really sort of coming to fruition. And the reason I share it with you is because I had 2 of you tell me that one of your goals for each of you this year was to be able to earn enough income to be able to pay for Amy Snow as your life coach, or to be able to commit to every mastermind that we did as a team this year. And that made me realize that the coaches on this team are understanding what I'm getting at here, right? That in order to keep growing, then that means your income and yourself and your team and your business, right? You have to be willing to put the money in yourself. So I think I dwell on that too long, but you get the point. So growth is the great separator between those who succeed and those who do not. When I see a person beginning to separate themselves from the pack, it's almost always due to personal growth. This is amazing. It'll be shared on my social. I think this is absolutely $1 million spot on. I came into the business having known none of you in 2010. And when I came into the business, I was grouped with, I would say there were maybe 7 or so of us that all came in about the same time. Okay. And we were set up as an accountability group. So we learned the business together, right? We became emeralds together. A lot of us, I think 4 or 5 of the 7 became diamonds together. And now when I look back on those 7 people, over half of them are no longer coaches. The 2 of us who still are relatively successful coaches, right? And the 2 of us have committed to all kinds of personal growth along the way. Both of us are Star Diamond coaches. Both of us have just reinvested in ourselves. We show up, we're at everything. And I think that is absolute proof that what's going to separate you in this business is how willing you are to invest in yourself when it comes to PD. So once it becomes non-negotiable to invest in yourself, this is what I was saying at the beginning, the awareness that you start to gain through reading these books, listening to these podcasts, participating in these online courses, the awareness that you start to get is what's going to lead you to your plan. So again, if you're brand new and you're like, I don't even know what you're really talking about, like what is personal development? Because I didn't understand either until I got halfway through the Slight Edge. It really is just going to a Barnes & Noble, going to the self-help section and saying, which of these books looks like it could speak to me, right? Like, and I just start there. And I want to put this disclaimer out there too. There's going to be times where you're reading something and it sucks. I've had like 3 books in the last 3 months, like more than ever, where I'm like on chapter 3 and I read every night in bed. And I tell my husband, I'm like, I can't do this. Like this, another one bites the dust. Like can't do it. Not speaking to me. But it's okay. It's not, you've not committed to like a sorority book club where you're going to be asked to answer questions at at a coffee bar. Like this is not a book club sort of thing. It needs to speak to you, right? It needs to be something that speaks to you, but it also needs to be something that pushes you out of your comfort zone. If you're reading your personal development book and you're like, boom, sister, like all the time, that's awesome because it's feeding your confidence, but it might not be helping you grow enough. It might be a great occasional read, but you need a little bit of something that's going to be like, oh man, like I think she's talking to me, or I think I need to highlight that and come back to that, or I think that this is something I need to dwell on a little bit longer. So you want something that's going to push you out of your comfort zone. Your path, your personal growth path is going to be ever changing. It is constantly changing. There have been times where I've put down a book because I needed to pick up something else, because something shifted in my business or in my life and just something else took priority, and that's okay. I don't know if I think this is a John Maxwell thing. I'm not sure, but just the whole concept of you don't know what you don't know, right? I didn't know what I didn't know. I didn't know that personal growth was within my own grasp, just like John Maxwell claims he didn't know either. And this is something that's, those of you who participated in masterminds, you've heard this before, it's not news, but there's this concept of the terror barrier, and it's something that we want to be constantly pushing ourselves through. Basically has to do with, in order for an airplane to actually break through the sound barrier, it has to accelerate its speed to get through it. And that's the same concept when it comes to personal development, right? Like we want to be accelerating ourselves through the hard stuff, just like we tell our challengers, right? Like accelerate through the hard things. You can do hard things. You can do these workouts that make you want to die, right? Like you can push through them because they're going to make you better on the other side. And the same thing goes for our personal growth plan. So personal development is the belief that you're worth the effort, time, and energy needed to develop yourself, right? That's a total summarization of what we just talked about. So does anybody have any specific questions? I mean, I realize that this was a super simple way of looking at it, but I think that that's really how you have to look at it. You have to say, okay, what relationships do I want to improve the most? What area of my business is and this is let me also say, this is a good evaluation tool, not just once a year, right? So asking yourself these few things now, and then maybe again in a couple months, right? Like where's my business now? Like, what do I need to focus on now? Like, constantly reevaluating is key. So hopefully those few steps or a few action items can help you put a plan in place for yourself this year. We do have it. I would be like totally weird if I didn't talk about the team mastermind that we have coming up, which starts Monday night. And it is, I believe it's 8:30 to 9:45 p.m. Eastern time with Amy. And what I love about I love lots of things about Amy. She's one of my best friends. But what I love the most is like the first time she ever had a mastermind for us, like 4 years ago, that she ever led one, I was like, this is amazing because I suck at facilitating personal development. Like I'm the first person to be like, we all need to be doing PD, right? It's been a game changer for me. But if I had to facilitate you guys through like a book, I would just be like a cheerleader. You know what I mean? Like you'd be like, I read this part and it was awesome. I'd be like, yes, it was. You're a rock star. Like I'm so bad at like helping people self-evaluate. And so it is totally, I'm not exaggerating. It is her strength. Like she is meant for this. So it's not uncomfortable in the sense that it's awkward at all. It's uncomfortable in the sense that you really come away each week thinking like, wow, this is really deep. This is really something that's going to help me. So the next one is happening starting next Monday. It'll be 6 weeks long. And I think after that, we're planning on doing the new Rachel Hollis book, The Girls Stop Apologizing. I think it comes out in March. So we'll have those offered to the team around the year, off and on. So does anybody have any specific questions? And for those of you who have specifically asked me about a personal growth plan, does this make sense? Does this help you focus on that? Am I frozen? Half of you are frozen.
I lost you for a minute, Jenny, but you're back now.
Okay. When everybody else is frozen, you're like, dang it, I'm frozen. Okay, so what I said was, the people who've asked me about a personal growth plan or figuring one out, is this helpful? I'll just give you some steps. Okay. Cool. Any questions, you guys, or anything I missed? Anybody want to share their favorite podcast of the moment to give people some ideas? I used to tell people that I wanted my toddler to be reciting John Maxwell when she was like 2 or 3. And now she doesn't yet, darn it. But she does say, when I listen to a podcast, she'll say, "Oh, mama working," which is too funny, too cute. And you want to know the other thing that I've taught her, which I'm super proud of? My mom used to tell her, my mom still does, will be like, "You're so bossy." And she goes, "Bossy, bossy, bossy." And so I started saying, when people tell you that, you got to say, "I am a leader." So she literally on her own, like 2 nights ago, my mom was here and she said something to her and she went, "Bossy, bossy, bossy." And then she goes, "I am a leader." We went like that. And we were like, I was like, my time here is done. I can die peacefully now. No. So I can show you my screen of what I subscribe to. I don't know if you can see it. No, probably not. It's too bright. So I subscribe to Beyond the To-Do List, Build Your Tribe with Shalene, Building a Story Brand podcast with Donald Miller, Building Your Legacy with Josh Coates. I'm really digging Business Boutique with Christy Wright. The podcasts are a little long, but she's really smart. I love her stuff. John Maxwell, I actually prefer his new one. I'm trying to find it on here. I'll find it in a second. I listen to one that on occasion called Mind Pump. So for those of you guys who are into like fitness, personal training, nutrition, learning about thyroid, learning about hormones, all that stuff, they've got some cool stuff. It's called Mind Pump. Online Marketing Made Easy with Amy Porterfield. I listen to Rachel Hollis, Rise and Rise Together, which is the marriage one. Social Media Marketing with Michael Stelzner. Success Talks, TED Talks, Team Beachbody podcast, Action Catalyst. I listen to all these. The Brendan Show with Brendon Burchard. The Shalene Show. Entree Leadership. Gary Vee. Should I stop? Global Leadership Summit podcast. That's a good one too. It's a faith-based podcast and it's really good. My friend Amber Kuiper, I think she ended the year in the top 30 coaches, maybe even less than that. She and her husband have just started a podcast and it's called Hun, Let's Run. She just retired him from his pharmaceutical sales job. It's a cool one. James Altucher, John Maxwell Leadership Podcast. One of my personal favorites is the Life Coach School with Brooke Castillo. I kind of want to, she's sort of annoying. I say that with love. Like the beginning of each podcast is like, "What's up, my friends?" Every single one. And I'm like, oh. She's a lot of personality, but I like it. The Life Coach School is that one. Platinum Edge with Christine Dwyer. Robin Sharma. That was a podcast recommendation by Trina Gray. I like him a lot too. Lewis Howes, Tony Robbins, Michael Hyatt, Smart Passive Income, Your Virtual Upline, and Women Inspiring Women with Melanie Mitro. That's a great one too. So in case you needed some ideas, there's about 30 for podcasts. And those are great to listen to like on your commute or when you're in the car. Anybody else have any that I missed or that they like? Nicole? Uh-oh, I can't hear you for some reason. I see your
Yeah, I'm looking at. Can you hear me now?
Yeah.
Okay. You're probably going to hear Danica too. I don't know if you said Rise Together, the one that Rachel Hollis does with her husband.
Yeah.
That's really good, like family-oriented, like relationship podcast.
Yep. Yeah. Nicole, what were you going to say?
Can you hear me now?
Yeah.
Okay. Empower Her.
Oh, yeah.
Keisha Fitzgerald. I think that's her. I don't remember her last name. She just started a podcast.
Cool.
I haven't listened to all of them yet, but just a few of them. I listened to the Angie Lee Show.
Got it.
Earn Your Happy with Lori Harder. Gold Digger. And that was all the
Goal, Gold Digger? Or
Goal.
Yeah.
Goal. Yeah. Those were the only other ones I had on here that I listened to.
So I shared this in a private group with some of you guys today, but in case you didn't see it, there were several leaders in the roundtable today, elite coaches, etc., who posted that they are now requiring this particular episode podcast to be listened to by all of their coaches, including new coaches. So I'm going to share it with you in case you want something to listen to tomorrow. But it's called the Better Than Happy podcast with Jody Moore. And it's episode 136. And I think it's called Finding the Motivation to Work Your Side Hustle. And it's geared toward women who work full time, who are working a network marketing business, and how to make that priority, how to be motivated for that type of thing. So I've listened to, it looks like I've listened to 15 minutes of it. I haven't listened to the whole thing yet. But that's, given that it had such high recommendations by so many top coaches, I thought I would share that here too. And that particular podcast they said was the best. So lots of good stuff. All right, cool. So hopefully you guys are coming away from this thinking like, okay, I have some structure here. I know what I need to be focusing on, or I know where to get started. If not, I'm happy to talk to you individually about what it is you might be needing. Like I said, the common tendency that I see is that coaches tend to go with what they think sounds the best to them and what supports their existing mindset versus what supports their growth mindset, which is to be open to criticism and coaching. So, yeah, Tara, what did you say? Ashley Molsted's. Yes, that was like a mic drop, national wake-up call, for sure. Did anybody else's jaw drop when they said like she signed 973 coaches this year? I was like, only like 3 or 4 a day, like no big deal, you know? No, more than that, 30 a day, whatever it is. Crazy.
There's none left.
Huh?
There's none left for the rest of us. No, just kidding.
I don't follow her on social. I mean, I think I follow Melanie. I never see anything that Melanie posts, but I don't follow Ashley. Does anybody else? You do, Tara? Yeah, I don't follow her, but I know that I came across her YouTube channel. I forget when, recently. She's the one that does like the push to Emerald, like the 20 Emerald in 24 hours thing. She's got some great content for that. So, all right, you guys, the recording for this will be up tomorrow as usual, and I'll post it in the team page. I'll see you guys soon. Have a great night. I'll see some of you guys on the mastermind Monday. Good night.